I'm going to create the best way to tell the story of the models for the members, and I'll start with the greatest model and the one dearest to my heart, Natalia Lozano. If you like this style, please let me know so I can continue. And if you don't like it, please let me know as well so I can go back to the usual way. Chapter 1. The Girl from Madrid. Madrid, Spain, early 2000s. The air was heavy with summer heat, drifting through the open windows of a modest apartment on the outskirts of Madrid. The sound of street vendors, barking dogs, and passing scooters filled the background. Inside, a young girl stood in front of a full-length mirror, pulling at the sleeves of her shirt, not because they didn't fit, but because something didn't feel right. Her name was Natalia Lozano. At just 11 years old, she had the quiet self-awareness of someone far older. Her brown eyes, deep and thoughtful, often lingered on the pages of fashion magazines that lay scattered around her room, not because she wanted to look like the women in them, but because she wondered why none of them looked like her. Growing up in a culture of contradictions, Spain, like much of Europe, had a complex relationship with beauty. In the early 2000s, runways were dominated by wafer-thin models, high cheekbones, and sharp elegance. Natalia, on the other hand, was soft around the edges, with curves she hadn't asked for and a body that didn't quite fit in. Not in school, not on television, and definitely not in those glossy pages. But there was something about her, a fire, a quiet defiance, a knowing smile that suggested, "You haven't seen anything yet." Her parents were traditional, working-class Madrileños. Her mother, a nurse, and her father, a city maintenance worker, believed in hard work, stability, and keeping your head down. Natalia, she wanted the opposite. She wanted the world to look up. A camera and a spark. The first time she posed for a photo, she was 13. Her cousin had a cheap digital camera, and they spent the summer taking model shots in the alley behind their apartment block. Natalia wore her mother's lipstick, a scarf as a belt, and heels that were 2 sizes too big. She laughed, danced, and twirled, and for the first time, she didn't feel too big. She felt powerful. That night, she posted one of the photos to an early version of Facebook. The comments were instant. "Fire, fire, fire. You should be a model. Who took this pic? You look like a star." It was the first time the world gave her permission to be seen. And she liked it. Broken heart battling insecurity and judgment. But confidence isn't built in a day, and the world doesn't always cheer for women who don't play by its rules. As Natalia moved into her teen years, she was both admired and criticized. Boys liked her curves, but girls whispered behind her back. Teachers told her to focus on real goals. One gym instructor even suggested she watch her weight if she wants to stay healthy. She smiled politely, but inside, a silent vow was forming. One day, this body you're mocking will be my brand, my business, my legacy. The shift begins. By 17, Natalia was exploring online communities that celebrated curvy women. She discovered American plus-size models, body positivity pages, and influencers who owned their image. She was fascinated. But in Spain, that movement was still underground. She was ahead of her time, a curvy, confident girl in a society that didn't know what to do with her. So she did what any rebel would do. She created space where none existed. Instagram enters the chat. When Instagram began to rise globally, Natalia saw more than just a photo-sharing app. She saw freedom. No gatekeepers. No agencies telling her she's not the right size. Just a girl, her phone, and a dream. She posted her first public modeling photo in her early 20s. Nothing fancy. A mirror selfie in a tight-fitting outfit, a caption about loving yourself regardless of what people think. She went to sleep with 140 followers. She woke up to 1,400. It had begun. End of Chapter 1 Preview. From the narrow streets of Madrid to the endless scroll of social media, Natalia Lozano wasn't just growing up, she was growing into a force. A woman ready to challenge beauty norms, one post at a time. A mirror of two worlds. Natalia's room slowly transformed into a private studio, a place where she experimented with clothes, makeup, and poses. She began studying light, angles, how influencers used color and filters. Not because she wanted to copy them, but because she wanted to master her own formula. She wasn't just taking selfies anymore. She was curating an identity. To her followers, she was the confident, glowing Latina with a radiant smile and enviable curves. But behind the scenes, she still faced the friction of two worlds, the traditional expectations of her family and the rebellious dream blooming inside her. Double life. At family dinners, she kept things low-key, just posting a bit online, she'd say when her uncle asked what she was doing these days. But online, she was stepping into power. By age 24, Natalia had grown a decent following, a few thousand loyal fans who loved her fashion sense, her body confidence, and her unapologetic presence. She wasn't hiding anymore. The mirror that once reflected her insecurities had become her weapon. Still, she hadn't told her parents everything. How could she explain to her conservative father that people were paying her to wear lingerie? How could she tell her mother that strangers on the internet sent her messages calling her a goddess? Spain's culture was shifting, slowly, but not fast enough for Natalia. So she kept balancing, one foot in tradition, one foot in transformation. First brand deal. She remembered the email clearly. Subject line: "We love your vibe. Let's work together." It was from a small lingerie brand in the UK that specialized in curvy body types. They wanted to send her a collection, let her model it on Instagram, and pay her €250 for the post. It wasn't a life-changing sum, but it was validation. She danced in her room that night, in socks and a bathrobe, blasting reggaeton. This wasn't just about money. It was about ownership. For the first time, someone had paid her for being exactly who she was. No shrinking, no pretending, no filters to hide her hips. Body politics and Spain's silent revolution. What Natalia didn't know was that she was becoming part of a much larger movement. In cities like New York and LA, curvy and plus-size models were beginning to grace magazine covers. In Latin America, body diversity campaigns were slowly appearing. And in Spain, though the mainstream media hadn't caught on, young women were watching influencers like Natalia and finally seeing themselves represented. She was more than just a pretty face. She was an unintentional activist. Not the kind who marched in protests or gave TED Talks, but the kind who changed minds quietly through screens, one post at a time. Underscore 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 underscore. Speech balloon haters and heat. Of course, the more she rose, the more the hate followed. Some of it was subtle. Brave of you to post that. Some of it was cruel. You'd be so much prettier if you lost 30 pounds. And then there were the DMs from fake accounts, the YouTube reactions, the anonymous trolls hiding behind cartoon avatars. But Natalia didn't back down. She started posting more, not just the polished shots, but the behind-the-scenes bloopers, the stretch marks, the cellulite, the messy hair mornings. She wasn't just showing her beauty. She was showing her realness. That's what made people fall in love with her. Private thoughts, public persona. Late at night, Natalia would still scroll through comments longer than she should. Some made her smile. Others stung. Am I really a role model? What if they find me boring one day? What if I never make it beyond this? Imposter syndrome doesn't care how many followers you have. But then she'd read a message like this. I saw your post today and cried. You reminded me that my body isn't broken. Thank you. And just like that, she'd remember why she started. First trip abroad. When Natalia booked her first modeling-related trip outside of Spain, a photo shoot collaboration in Paris, she cried at the airport. Not because she was scared, but because this was the moment the dream became real. From the alley behind her childhood apartment to an international modeling opportunity. She wasn't almost something anymore. She was something. End of chapter 1. Natalia Lozano didn't wake up famous. She built herself, post by post, pose by pose, bruise by bruise. The girl from Madrid who once hated the mirror had now made it her stage. And she was just getting started. Chapter 2. The Birth of a Brand. Madrid, 2017. The sun was setting over Gran Via, washing the skyline in gold. Natalia sat at a small cafe with a notebook in front of her and a cappuccino she had no intention of drinking. She wasn't here for the coffee. She was here for clarity. Her Instagram was growing, thousands of new followers every week. But it still felt chaotic. Random photos, mixed content, no strategy, no brand. She knew what she wanted, but didn't know how to own it. Who is Natalia Lozano, really? What am I selling? What do I stand for? That night, she stayed up until 3 a.m., writing down ideas. Phrases, feelings, visions. A word kept showing up over and over. Confidence. Finding her niche. Curvy, classy, unapologetic. Natalia realized she didn't just want to be another model. She wanted to create a space, an identity, where women who looked like her felt beautiful, sexy, respected, seen. She wasn't trying to fit into the fashion industry. She was rewriting its rules. Her niche, curvy empowerment, Latina elegance, real body, real woman. From that day on, every photo, every caption, every collab would point back to this identity. Camera with flash, the signature look. She started experimenting. A high-waisted jeans hugging her curves. A lace bodysuits paired with oversized jackets. A minimal makeup with bold lip color. A natural lighting only. No fake filters. She wasn't afraid to show skin, but it was never desperate or thirsty. It was artful, controlled, strategic. She understood what the camera loved and how to command it. Her photos weren't about being hot. They were about being in control of her own image. And that's what made her stand out. Mobile phone social media strategy. The hustle behind the glam. By 2018, Natalia's Instagram was more than a passion. It was a business. She created a content calendar, scheduled shoots, learned basic graphic design, watched hours of YouTube tutorials on SEO, algorithm changes, and engagement hacks. Her DMs were now filled with offers. A swimwear brands, a lingerie lines, a fitness tea scams she'd instantly ignore. A modeling agencies asking for auditions she rejected most. She didn't want to be owned. She replied to followers daily, reshared fan posts, responded to hate with either silence or savage class. She didn't just grow a following. She built a community, turning likes into income. Her first brand deal was only €250. By mid-2018, she was charging €750 per post, depending on usage rights and exclusivity. Then came affiliate links, sponsored stories, custom discount codes. Later, OnlyFans. It wasn't about being explicit. Natalia used OnlyFans the way an artist uses Patreon. Exclusive access, behind the scenes, more intimate vibes, and control over her content and her money. In an industry that often exploits women, she was flipping the script. If I'm the product, I'm also the CEO. She hired a part-time assistant, got a ring light, bought a DSLR, rented studio space when she needed it, took business courses online, Her modeling career wasn't a lucky break. It was a startup, and she was the brand. Becoming an international name. As her following expanded beyond Spain, Natalia started receiving DMs in English, Portuguese, even Arabic. She realized her brand resonated globally, especially with women in countries where curvy representation was still taboo. She adjusted her captions, now bilingual, started learning about cross-cultural fashion trends, studied what colors worked best in each region. She wasn't just taking photos anymore. She was designing digital influence. Magazines started to notice. Podcasts invited her on. Other influencers started copying her poses. Natalia had moved from micro-influencer to niche icon. More than a body. Still, there were days she struggled. Not with confidence, but with the weight of being the curvy role model. People expected her to be perfect, always glowing, always body positive. But she had insecurities, doubts, sad days, lonely nights. So she began sharing those too. Not for sympathy, but for truth. I love my body. But some days, I don't love how I feel in it. And that's okay. That caption got more engagement than any bikini photo. Natalia realized something powerful. Vulnerability was part of her brand. Not weakness. Truth. The message. Own your space. By the end of 2019, Natalia Lozano was no longer just an Instagram model. She was a symbol, especially for a curvy Latinas tired of being underrepresented. A women who didn't want to shrink to be beautiful. A girls in small towns dreaming big with nothing but a phone and Wi-Fi. She had one clear message. Own your space. Don't apologize for taking up room in this world. End of chapter 2. Natalia's brand wasn't built in a studio. It was built in the quiet hours, between heartbreaks and hustle, between rejection and resilience. She turned her curves into currency, and her confidence into culture. But the biggest transformation was yet to come. Chapter 3. The Curvy Revolution. How Natalia became a leading voice in body positivity, and why the world needed her. Buy the best models. The world was changing, but not fast enough. In the late 2010s, social media was exploding with filtered perfection. Flawless skin, tiny waists, edited thighs. And while Natalia Lozano was growing as a model and influencer, she was also growing into something bigger. A symbol for those who felt unseen. A mirror for the women who were always told they needed to fix themselves before being beautiful. Natalia wasn't just posting for attention anymore. She was posting with purpose. The rise of body positivity. In the US, the body positivity movement was gaining traction. Names like Ashley Graham and Tess Holliday were making waves. Hashtags like #EFFYourBeautyStandards and #CelebrateMySize were trending. But in Spain, it was still quiet. The fashion industry remained stuck in traditional ideals. Thin, pale, tall. Curves were fetishized, not celebrated. Plus-size representation was nearly non-existent in commercials, campaigns, or mainstream magazines. That's where Natalia stepped in, not just as a model, but as a movement. Her body wasn't a statement. It was a revolution, speaking through silence. Interestingly, Natalia never positioned herself as an activist, at least not in the traditional sense. She didn't scream. She didn't protest in the streets. She posed. But the silence of her confidence was louder than words. Every bikini photo that showed stretch marks, every video she posted with natural lighting, every moment she refused to shrink or apologize, it all spoke volumes. She was changing the narrative just by existing unapologetically. Your photos gave me permission to love myself. Messages like that started coming in a lot. Natalia began screenshotting them and saving them in a secret folder titled File Folder, Proof I'm Doing Something Right. Some messages were from teens. Others were from women in their 40s and 50s who said they'd hated their bodies their whole lives. One message stood out. I saw your post in a red swimsuit, and I cried. Not because you're beautiful, I already knew that, but because, for the first time, I saw me in someone beautiful. That message hit different. Natalia realized that her presence wasn't just nice, it was necessary. The online backlash and how she handled it. With fame comes friction. As Natalia became more visible, the hate comments followed. Promoting obesity. This isn't healthy. Why is this on my Explore page? They came from fake profiles, from anonymous cowards, from insecure people who felt threatened by any woman who refused to hate herself. At first, Natalia tried to respond. Tried to explain that loving your body doesn't mean ignoring health. That beauty comes in more than one size. That thin doesn't mean worthy, and fat doesn't mean failure. But eventually, she stopped explaining. Because her existence didn't need defense. She was done debating her worth. Body positivity versus body neutrality. As the movement matured, Natalia began to understand the difference between body positivity and body neutrality. A body positivity said, love your body no matter what. A body neutrality said, your body doesn't have to be beautiful to be valuable. Natalia believed in both, but leaned toward the second. There were days she didn't love her body. There were days she didn't feel sexy, or strong, or powerful. And that was okay, because her body was still hers. It carried her, held her heart, got her out of bed, took her to Paris, made her money, helped her change lives. What else could she ask for? The first body positivity campaign. In 2020, Natalia was invited to co-lead a digital campaign called Cuerpo Real, Mujer Real, Real Body, Real Woman. The campaign featured 10 Spanish influencers of different shapes, sizes, colors, and ages. The goal: to challenge traditional beauty in Spanish media. Natalia's billboard went up in the heart of Madrid, Puerta del Sol. She stood, hands on hips, in a red two-piece, with no Photoshop, no retouching. The caption read, Esto también es belleza. This is beauty too. It was a moment. Strangers took selfies with it. Women cried beneath it. Critics raged online. And Natalia, she just smiled. If they're angry, I'm doing it right. Mental health and the curvy revolution. Behind the likes and campaigns was something more serious. Mental health. So many of Natalia's followers had internalized decades of body shame. Eating disorders, depression, anxiety, all tied to the false idea that worth equals thinness. So she started opening up more. She spoke about her relationship with food, her old desire to fix herself, her experience with therapy, the pressure of being perfect online. And that made her even more relatable. She wasn't just a model anymore. She was a voice. A new generation was watching. Natalia's DMs were now filled with messages from younger influencers asking for advice. How do you deal with the hate? How did you grow your following? Do I need to lose weight to make it? Her answer was always the same. You don't need to change. You need to choose yourself. She began mentoring behind the scenes, helping other curvy models rise, connecting them with brands, sharing her secrets. Because a real queen doesn't close the door behind her. She holds it open. End of chapter 3. Natalia Lozano didn't plan a revolution. She just loved herself out loud. And that was enough to change the world. The curvy revolution didn't start with a hashtag. It started with a girl in Madrid, a camera, and a refusal to hide. And now, the world was finally watching. Chapter 4. Fame, Pressure, and the Price of Influence. Behind the filters, the real life of a social media star. By the best models. The mask of perfection. To the world, Natalia Lozano looked like she was living the dream. Million-plus followers, brand deals, press coverage, travel, fan love, every photo, flawless, every post, confident, every look, on point. But behind the filters and fire emojis, there was a truth she rarely shared. Fame is beautiful until it starts to burn. It wasn't the attention she feared. It was the expectation. The algorithm doesn't sleep, and neither did she. Influencer life isn't a 9 to 5. It's 24/7. Natalia woke up checking analytics. Her breakfast got cold while she replied to DMs. Every vacation became a photo shoot. Every outfit was calculated. Even moments of rest, framed as relatable content. "You're so lucky," people said. But luck doesn't edit videos at 2 a.m. Luck doesn't track engagement metrics for 6 hours straight. The algorithm doesn't care if you're tired, anxious, or sick. If you don't post, you don't grow. If you don't grow, you disappear. Natalia was trapped in the hustle, a prisoner of the machine she once loved. Mental exhaustion in a beautiful frame. There was a point, late 2021, when Natalia hit a wall. She opened Instagram and felt nothing. No excitement, no spark, no joy, just pressure. Post the perfect photo. Say the right thing. Look happy. Be confident, even when you're not. It was influencer burnout, and it was real. She began to dread her phone, doubt her content, lose sleep over hate comments. She even considered quitting. Is this worth it? She asked herself one night. If I stop posting, will I stop mattering? The loneliness of being seen by millions. People think influencers are always surrounded by friends, parties, DMs, collabs. But Natalia felt more alone than ever. Yes, her inbox was full, but her heart, empty. The more famous she got, the harder it became to trust people. Were they talking to Natalia or to @Natalia Lozano official? Were the brands hiring her for her values or her body? Were the compliments real or just bait for attention? Fame gave her a stage, but took away the quiet. Privacy. What's that? Natalia couldn't walk in central Madrid without being noticed. Some fans were sweet. Others were invasive. One girl followed her into a restroom at a shopping mall, begging for a selfie. She started getting unsolicited photos from male followers. People would screenshot her private moments, twist her captions, make fake accounts, spread rumors. And the worst part? If she complained, they called her ungrateful. You signed up for this. Fame comes with a price. Stop whining, you're rich and hot. But nobody talks about the emotional tax. The psychological bill fame leaves at your door. The double standard. Confidence versus conceit. Natalia had always posted confidently, head high, hips proud, bold captions. But the moment she showed too much pride, she's full of herself. Who does she think she is? Cringe. Curvy women aren't allowed to celebrate themselves the way thin women are. Their confidence is seen as arrogance, their fashion as attention-seeking, their self-love as narcissism. Natalia knew this double standard well, and it made every post feel like a balancing act between empowering others, not triggering the haters, showing her body proudly, not being too much, dealing with brands, not always glamorous. Behind every sponsored post is a negotiation, and Natalia was learning how dirty the influencer industry could be. Some brands are offered half the rate they'd pay to thinner models with fewer followers. Sent free clothes but required professional-grade content in return. I asked her to edit her body just a little to fit the look. I ghosted her after she declined to post in thongs only. She began turning down offers, a lot of them. If your brand can't handle my reality, you don't deserve my reach. That phrase became her rule, and her brand grew stronger because of it. Healing behind the scenes. Natalia began investing, not in clothes or lights, but in herself. She hired a therapist, took social media breaks, traveled without posting, started journaling, reconnected with her offline self, the girl who once posed in an alley with her cousin's camera. Slowly, the pressure eased. The mask cracked, and underneath was someone realer than ever. She wasn't just curvy, confident, and famous. She was resilient and ready for the next evolution, the turning point. One evening, Natalia posted a photo unlike any other. No makeup, messy hair, loose hoodie. Caption: not a photo shoot, not a brand post, just me, existing, surviving, healing. The engagement, massive, not because she was flawless, but because she was free. End of chapter 4. Fame gave Natalia Lozano a platform, but it also came with a cost: her peace, her privacy, and sometimes her sense of self. Yet through the burnout, backlash, and blurred lines of digital life, she didn't break. She rebuilt. Not for the algorithm, not for the likes, but for the woman staring back in the mirror. No filter, no fear. Chapter 5. Love, Lust, and Life Offline. The private passions of a public icon, and what Natalia doesn't post online. Buy the best models. Do you have a boyfriend? It was the most common question in Natalia Lozano'S DMs. Thousands of followers admired her curves, her confidence, her smile, but they were obsessed with one thing: who gets to love her behind the scenes. Natalia had built a digital empire from her image, yet kept her private life in a vault. No soft launch, no couple selfies, no kisses in her feed. She posted lingerie, but never posted love. Why? Because some things deserve to stay sacred. The early heartbreaks that shaped her. Before she was a global icon, Natalia was a teenager in Madrid with a soft heart and big dreams. She fell in love easily, trusted too fast, gave too much, and like many beautiful women, she was often loved for her body, not her soul. Her first serious relationship ended when her boyfriend told her, "You'd be perfect if you just lost a few kilos." That sentence haunted her. It didn't just break her heart, it nearly broke her self-worth. But it also ignited something in her. "I'll never shrink myself for a man again. If I'm too much for you, you're not enough for me." Dating while famous and curvy. Being famous made dating harder, not easier. Some men fetishized her. "You're my thick queen. I've always wanted to be with a curvy girl." Others felt insecure around her success. They called her intimidating, told her she was too independent. One even asked her to stop posting sexy photos for the sake of the relationship. She walked away because Natalia knew love built on conditions isn't love, it's control. She would rather sleep alone than dim her light for someone who couldn't handle the heat. Lust in the DMs. Let's be real, Natalia's inbox was wild. Blue-check celebrities sliding in with emojis. Athletes trying to fly her out. Rich men offering gifts for attention. Married followers sending voice notes at 3 a.m. She ignored most of them. She wasn't interested in being someone's fantasy, unless there was respect behind the desire. But occasionally, lust turned into something more. A hidden romance. In 2022, Natalia met someone. Quiet. Grounded. Kind. He wasn't a model. He wasn't famous. He wasn't loud. They met through mutual friends, and for the first time in years, Natalia let her guard down. He didn't follow her for the content. He didn't ask for selfies. He didn't compete with her light. He loved it. For over a year, they dated, in silence. No tags. No soft launches. No public fights. Just dinners, music, road trips, laughter. He reminded her who she was without the camera. Why she keeps love offline. Natalia once said in a private interview, "The internet gave me power, but it can't have my heart." She learned that sharing too much invites opinion. And love, real love, needs privacy to grow. That doesn't mean she's hiding. It means she's protecting what matters. Her audience gets her beauty. Her partner gets her soul. Passions beyond the feed. Outside the camera, Natalia is not just a model. She's a dog mom to 2 adopted rescues. A lover of old-school R&B and salsa. A bookworm, obsessed with feminist literature. A yoga addict. Her daily routine includes 45 minutes of flow and breathwork. A cafe hopper, always looking for the best courte-du in Madrid. A homebody who sometimes cancels plans just to stay in pajamas and light candles. These are the pieces of her no algorithm will ever capture. And that's exactly how she wants it. What she craves in a man, and in herself. Natalia's ideal relationship isn't about appearance. It's about energy. She craves presence, honesty, emotional safety, deep conversations, mutual admiration, space to grow, alone and together. And most of all, she wants someone who loves her as a human, not just a brand. Until then, she loves herself enough to wait. Love letters to her younger self. Sometimes, Natalia journals to the girl she used to be. The insecure teen. The one who cried after trying on jeans. The one who thought no one would ever see past her size. Here's one of those letters. You were never too big. The world was just too small to hold your greatness. Keep walking. Your people will find you. And when they do, they'll love every inch. End of chapter 5. Natalia Lozano may be a goddess online, but offline, she's a woman who wants what we all want. To be seen, to be held, to be loved, not for what she posts, but for who she is when the camera turns off. Chapter 6, Power Moves, Building an Empire Beyond Instagram. How Natalia turned followers into fortune and built a business that doesn't need likes to survive. Buy the best models. From influencer to entrepreneur. By 2023, Natalia Lozano wasn't just a social media star, she was a businesswoman. The journey from posting selfies to signing contracts wasn't overnight. It was a calculated, sometimes messy climb, because Natalia knew. Followers are powerful, but money talks louder. Seeing opportunity where others saw obstacles. The influencer economy was booming, but also saturated. Every week, a new model or content creator tried to break through the noise. Natalia's secret? She didn't compete. She innovated. Instead of just selling products, she created experiences. Instead of chasing trends, she set them. Launching her own swimwear line. Her first big move was launching Curvy Libra, a swimwear brand designed specifically for curvy women who wanted style and comfort. Natalia had tried countless bikinis, most designed for standard sizes that ignored her shape. So she thought, if I can't find what fits me, I'll make it myself. The collection featured high-waisted bottoms that hugged without digging in, supportive tops with adjustable straps, vibrant prints inspired by Spanish culture, inclusive sizing from XL to 4XL. The launch was a hit. Orders flooded in, not just from Spain, but from the US, Mexico, and Brazil. Partnering with body-positive brands. After Curvy Libra's success, Natalia caught the eye of established brands. But she was picky. She only partnered with companies that aligned with her values. Authenticity over Photoshop. Diversity over exclusivity. Quality over quantity. Brands like Good American, Savage X Fenty, and Universal Standard became natural allies.